My grandmother, Mafanta, wake up every day at 4 a.m. to get a fire going. Before going to school, all the children of the community came to greet her, have breakfast, and receive her blessings. It didn't matter if you were part of her family or not. She loved and treated all the children exactly the same. When I got into an argument with another child, my grandmother told me to forgive them because they are akin to my sister or my brother. Later on, I discovered that she referred to an African philosophy called Ubuntu. In Mali, we have a phrase, no one can boast of doing without others. This is the coordinate of Ubuntu. We are all interconnected. I am because we are. All the things I learned or achieved, I owe it to others. If we treat each other with respect and dignity, we both excel. If I hurt you, I also hurt myself. In 2006, I moved to France for my graduate degree, and I discovered a new world, opposite of the one I valued. I was stereotyped because of my name, the color of my skin, and my ethnicity. I was bewildered. Racism and discrimination were a kind of new evil, one I had never encountered before. Then my grandmother, Mabinta, passed away. I couldn't travel to Mali for the funeral, so I stayed in Paris with my family until it passed. I emailed the program director and told him I'd return to campus 2 days after the semester started. When I got back, I knocked at the classroom door. He opened it and exclaimed, "What are you doing here?" He said he kicked me out of the program. I was devastated. When I asked why, he yelled at the top of his voice in front of the whole class, "You are all the same. You never do things like others. I don't want to see you anymore." The you he was referring to was Black African people. I felt humiliated and alone. Though never said explicitly, I was again reminded that I was not part of them. Us and them became the mantra of my university years. His decision forced me to move from a master in computer networking to a master in software development. It affected the entire trajectory of my career. And it's just one story. Countless times I suffered racism and discrimination at work, in public, and at my kids' school. In my country, in France, one study found that resumes with African-sounding names received 25% fewer responses compared to those with French-sounding names. And another report found that young Arab and Black men are 20 times more likely to be stopped by the police than their white counterparts. Around the world, people are waking up to the fact that we must end racism now. We are all interconnected. Racism and discrimination against one person hurt every person. Like my grandmother taught us, your pain is my pain. Your salvation is my salvation. I believe if we adopted the teachings of Ubuntu at a personal and societal level, we could end racism. That means shifting our thinking in 3 ways. Learning to be empathetic, believing in our capacity for change, and rethinking justice. Let's start with empathy. It is difficult to discriminate against someone when you empathize with them. In college, for example, instead of labeling me as one of them, the lecturer could relate to me as a fellow human, still mourning the passing of my grandmother. We can all be more empathetic by listening to understand others. Then we can put ourselves in their shoes, feel their pain, and take actions to ease it. Next, we must dismantle the belief that people and institutions are incapable of change. In 2017, I was in a meeting with my team, and a colleague said, because I am black, I am a slave. I complained to the managers. They explained he was joking. I felt I was furious. But I knew I had to turn my anger into compassion by applying forgiveness, the hardest tenet of Ubuntu. I had to forgive my colleague to liberate myself and live in harmony with others. Years later, I encountered a previously racist client, and I greeted her with a smile. She asked, "How are you able to be kind to me after all the things I have done to you?" Humans can move from hate to acceptance and even to care. Nelson Mandela said, "No one was born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion." People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. All that is necessary is the will to change. That is why restorative justice is so important. Our punitive system of justice is flawed. It assumes that people who do bad things will never become good. Recently, a white woman, Amy Cooper, in New York, wrongfully called the police on a black bird watcher, Christian Cooper, claiming he threatened her. The video went viral online and she lost her job. With a traditional view of justice, that was a win. She wronged him and she was punished. But instead of rejoicing in his victory, Christian Cooper wondered whether the response to her actions was really proportionate. Instead of asking, how can we punish Amy Cooper? We must ask, how can we heal the damage? As Archbishop Desmond Tutu said, the central concern is not retribution or punishment, but in the spirit of Ubuntu, the healing of breaches, the redressing of imbalance, and the restoration of broken relationships. For lasting racial healing, we must rehabilitate the perpetrators of racism and restore the dignity of the victim of acts of racism and racial discrimination in our society. If we all practice Ubuntu by recognizing the interconnectedness of our humanity, dignity, and harmony, in communities, people will show more kindness and respect towards each other, especially to minority groups and disabled and vulnerable persons. Racism and discrimination could come to an end. Here in France, the mental health of people could improve dramatically if the lifestyle of Ubuntu is practiced all over the world. Humanity will be the great winner, and that means you